Well, it's July 2025 and I just replaced these for the third time on my S10. They're pieces of shit, these grommets they send you. I don't know what they're made out of. They're not brass, they're so brittle. You just look at them and they break. But here we are. I'm 73 years old and I had to do this job by myself, and the door literally fell off and hit the ground. This is the third time I've done it on this particular S10, and that's the first time I ever had one hit the ground, but it was the first time I ever did it by myself. I was almost there, and then boom. In the process, you got that, and there's a ding in there. There's a ding here. It scratches. You can't polish that out. Now the door does open and close, and I got to put those fasteners on the bottom and top. When it fell, it bent these pieces. I had to take a small sledge and pound them back to get them as straight as I could, and because of that, now this thing doesn't go all the way down. This pin, it's not going down by just a weensy, but it's not going down all the way. And the grommet that was here, I couldn't get it in. I actually, I did put it in the freezer, and I filed this out a little bit, not much, but a little, and I even then applied heat to it. So you had a cold grommet and heat on the, I'll call it a flange, and plus a little bit of filing, and that thing wouldn't go, and it broke. So I only got a grommet here, none here, got one here, and one here. And the doors open and closing, and I only paid $700 for this truck. I bought it from a friend. He just had bought a brand new S10. See that? I got to adjust this. If you look at this, you can see where it's been eating in to here. So I think I got to lower this a little teeny bit if you can. And regardless, yeah, see, you got to, it's just, it's all, I had a deer. We ran into a deer one night, and this whole front got really clobbered. That's, I put in new headlights after that. I had about a 20-foot torque bar out here to pull this, was working I had it between here, this big long pipe that came out about to here. And I just, but I finally got the bumper to come forward. The washer tank don't work no more because it got cracked. I was hoping, but it's not the same. This out of a Monte Carlo that I had, but it's not gonna go in. It's totally different. And we put this whole new, this piece all's new, and you can hardly tell that there's a slight dent in the bumper here from the deer. That deer just came out of nowhere, and it was tricky, but I'm still driving it, and I hope to keep driving it for the rest of my life. But yeah, these door pins that you get, I went to the dealership, the Chevy dealership, and that was a bizarre case. The guy working there, he comes walking out. He's about my age, a little younger, but not much younger. And I said, oh, good, he'll know what I'm talking about. The guy was clueless. I don't know what he'd been doing all his life before he wound up in the parts department at a dealership. But in the end, I had to point out what the pins were on his computer. And he's like, oh. And he says, we got to order them. We could have them here tomorrow. And I says, well, how much? And he says, $70 a set. And I'm like, $70 a set? I can go down to Advance Auto and get them for like $8 a set. And when you order them from me, when they come in, if they're the same crap, I'm stuck with that fee. So basically, I'm going to pay as much for what's probably going to become in as crap. And if you wonder why I'm saying that, you know, you go on eBay and they got everything under the sun. You can find parts for all kinds of vehicles. I don't care how old they are. The pins for these vehicles were made from 1997 to 2004. That's 8 model years, 97 through 2002, maybe it was. No, 94. 1994 S10 through 2002. I could be wrong, but it was like an 8-year run using the same pins. But you go on and you try to find an NOS pair for this, you can't. I don't know why, but you can't. So you're at the mercy of the crap. And I bought them at, you know, two different auto supply stores, and then I went into a third one, and it was the same thing, slightly different box, but you could tell it was the same. And on eBay, I typed it in and I asked for, you know, NOS. Doesn't exist. Now they had some that for a different Chevy truck that looked good, but they won't fit this. I forget what they were for. Maybe a Cherokee, I don't remember. Oh, it said would fit a Cadillac also, and they looked like they were decent. So when the time comes and I go to do this again, if I even bother, I might just start using the passenger's door. I'm going to try to create my own thing, and you know, it's frustrating. I don't know why they wouldn't have them for all those years. It's a simple part, and there's so many forums on YouTube and everywhere talking about this particular situation. People are always having to replace them. It's easy, but it isn't. It's a little bit confusing. You know, pin up, side, you know, this pin goes this way, this pin goes that way, small grommet. I believe in one case the small grommet's on the bottom and the other one's at the top, and two of them, yeah, I'll show you a good example. When you take your door off, you might get confused, but you see here, on this particular hinge, the grommets go in here. See this plate? You got the door jamb, whatever, not the jamb, but you know what I'm talking about. And you got to put the grommets in this. But on the bottom, they go in this, not in this. And so people get confused, you know, because you put them in here, and then this one, the fat side's on the bottom, and on this one, the fat side's on the top. And they show, you know, people on YouTube, and they do it, and they look like they don't have a bit of a problem, but boy, do I. And don't do it alone unless you really, really have to. But after I did it, and it was on the ground, what I wound up doing, let's see what happens this time. You got to put some force into it. Yeah, see that? I got to play with it. Yeah, I'm going to have to play with that. It was laying here on the ground, and I got it up, and I put the rug there after the fact. But I had to pick this thing up, okay? And as I picked it up and got it up and figured out whereabouts it was supposed to go, then I had to lay it over here against this part, and then get my jack out again, that thing, and bring it over here and jack it up where I figured was about the best spot. And I got it, and it worked, but it didn't work. That board turned out to be, at this point, not helpful, so I just got rid of the board and just used the pad on the jack itself and played back and forth, and using Phillips head screwdrivers managed to muscle this door back in. This side's much heavier than this side, and I muscled it back in enough to be able to get a screwdriver through here. So now the top was at least held in, and then I had to go to the bottom and keep, you know, jack it up a little, jack it down, and maneuver it with my body and hand until I could get this pin. And I went with this one because this pin is going down. It's easier than trying to do it through this mess, you know, up here. So this had a screwdriver through it on the top, and then on the bottom I finally managed to line it up. Getting it in the first hole was easy, but getting it to go through the second hole was a problem. But I did it after some effort. I mean, this didn't take all day. You just took your time and kept studying it and moving the door in and out a little and back and forth. And then once I had this one in, then I'm still holding the door up with the jack down here, and I pulled the screwdriver out so that this part was open, but the screwdriver was still holding in up here. You know, so I had a shank, you might say, coming through about about halfway down, and then, but this side was open, so I took this pin and I wiggled it in place and got it to come right up. This one went in, much easier. And like I says, I better not forget to put these clips on. Old man, so forgetful too. Well, that's about the size of it. And I'm not even going to publish this. I'm putting this, it's on this channel because this channel, nobody ever looks at it. And if I had had my little if I'd had this camera out here on a little tripod, it would have made for a great video. Seeing that door hit the ground, I didn't cuss. I said, damn, I think, but I try not to cuss. Believe me, I've done plenty of it, but it doesn't help you any. Everybody, as I always say, have a great day.